How you doing today, guys? Welcome back to my second video for Train Fever tutorial and guide, and I'm also going to do a little bit of comparisons as to what you can do in this compared to what you can do in Transport Fever. But before I ended my last video, I wanted to kind of show you that I was correct in my assessment and that I didn't bankrupt myself permanently. However, I wasn't able to finish that video since the landscapers interrupted me. But, okay, so let's see what have we got. So now, if we go up here, we can see I actually have $600,000 because I did some playing since then just to get it back in the green. And so this has been working fairly well. Now, some other things that we can see, though, is I made a wagon line to transport the goods in here. But if you can see these little cargo icons, that means they're not being transported by my wagons. So what that means is I don't have enough wagons. So I should probably put at least a couple more on this line, because that's money that I could be getting that's getting away from me. And of course, comparison I guess I'll make right now is I believe in Transport Fever you'll actually be able to see a little guy sitting on the wagon. Well, I haven't actually looked at that myself in the videos that have been posted by people, but that is what they show on the vehicles on the website. It actually shows little guys on there. So that's something I'm going to have to check out sometime. And what we also have here, now let's look at my raw resources. Now you can see there's quite a bit stacked up there. So if I click on that, I've got 25 sitting there. And what is my train's capacity? It's got a capacity of 28, so there's probably going to be a little bit left over. So he's hauling full loads, though, that's the point. And the coal, I believe, is also... he's actually got one that's not full, but he's gotten mostly full, pretty close. So that's pretty good. Now, actually, and I didn't show you this before, but if we click on the Manage Lines icon here, I mean, it'll show you the balance. This is the yearly balance, the year-to-date of each of these lines. So they're all in the green, they're making money. So that's pretty good. So now what we need to start looking at now is expanding. So if I was going to expand, well, where would we go? Probably the most obvious option would be Concord. I mean, we can see there's a lot of cargo traveling there. For that distance, I would probably want to use a train. And as I said in the last video, I mean, I like playing with the trains more than I like with the trucks. After all, this is Train Fever, so let's get with the trains as much as possible. But that brings up an issue that we're going to have to figure out. Is, as I said, with this, I wanted to make a larger station that had 5 tracks, but it cost too much money at the time, so I've only got 2 tracks in and out on this. And just adding one more train in and out wouldn't be too big of a deal, but if you start adding 4 or 5, and you have to start managing things rather well to make sure things are uninterrupted, at least as much as possible. I mean, when you start adding signals and start making trains stop and waiting for others, there's going to be a little bit of an interruption, but just got to try and limit it as much as possible. Now, first thing is a comparison from Transport Fever. Like on this, once you build a station, you can't upgrade it or expand it. You have to bulldoze it and just put a new one down. Because for this, I mean, you can click on it and there's nothing there. I mean, honestly, I'm not exactly sure how they do it in Transport Fever. If you click on it and there's an option if they go through the build menu. But if you've watched the preview videos they've released for it, then I'm sure you've seen it. It looks very simple and very handy on Transport Fever, how you can just expand it without actually having to bulldoze anything. And let's make another comparison here. Is if I wanted to build a track across this road, the only way I could get it to go multiple tracks is now I can hug right along this one and it'll work. But let's say I build this out here, and then it's going to say, if you get right in here, it's going to say not enough space between this track and that track. And in Transport Fever, it looks like they've eliminated that based on the previews that I've seen. It looks like that's no longer going to be an issue. Now, I mean, it's not too bad because it looks like I can go right out here and it would work. But sometimes that can be a killer. I mean, in this particular station, I'm kind of wide out in the open. It's not too much of a problem. But if you're not careful when you build your station, you build it in such a way that the road just doesn't give you enough space, or if it's in town or something, it can be a hassle having that restriction. And of course, that's another thing. Like, if I wanted to build tracks like you can't in Train Fever, you can't build straight across like that, or even at a lot of these angles. But in Transport Fever, it looks like you can cross tracks at almost any angle. It looks like it works. There's hardly any restrictions there. So that's just another nice little thing to look forward to about Transport Fever. But let me see. So if we wanted to build a train or get a train going from, well, first of all, let's figure out where the station would have to be. And you want to build the station as close to the buildings that need it are, and it's the blue industrial buildings that need the goods mostly. And that's another thing, if you were unaware of it, it's the supply of goods that fuel the growth of these towns. So if the more goods they get, they should grow quicker. In fact, it looks like we got some construction taking place there right now. So it is beneficial to try and get as goods to as many towns as possible. And yeah, we can't get a road in there. Now let's build a road. Oops. Now, I haven't really seen much of the road building tools in Transport Fever yet, but I hope they're better than this, because, yeah, that's one of those things. I'm not even sure why. Okay, there we go. But yeah, it's kind of the road building tools and the track building tools in this game, they can be a little bit fussy. Okay, let's do this. And that works. Okay, so then let's double check our money. Got almost 700,000, so I think we'll be good. Now, this is just going to be a drop-off point. We're not picking anything up or anything like that, so we only need the smallest station for this, because there's nothing picked up in here. There's nothing going to be sitting on the platforms waiting for me. I'm just going to drop it off and it's going to go into town. It's going to be gone, so you don't need a big station to do that. So you can save some money just going a small station on that. Alrighty. So probably what I want to do is I'll probably just hug this line down to over here, and then I'll branch off and have it continue to, what's that, Concord. So we'll just do that. Oops. And honestly, so far, I've still only watched the one video of Transport Fever. I was thinking that maybe I would just wait until the 8th title unlocks and I'll be able to play my own pre-purchase, but I have considered there may be some advantages of me actually watching it, because it might give me some more info I can share to you in my videos. If you don't have Transport or Train Fever yet, there's some more info. Maybe it'll help me relay to you before I actually get my hands on it myself. Alright, so that looks like we're all set there. Okay, but now what I was saying is now we have another train in, so now we're going to have 3 trains using 2 tracks. But actually, it's going to be these 2 trains using that the track on the far left there. Wow, if I turn this way now, it's on the left. So that means I need to add a couple of signals here. And then you have to make sure the signal is on the right-hand side of the train, the right-hand side of whichever way they're going. See, like I need to stop them while they're coming into the station, not going out. So it needs to be on that side of the track. Now, if I put it on, say, that side, that would be a signal telling them to stop and wait as they were coming out. But you don't want to do that because there's only one track there. Because if I put a signal over here, let's say over here, stopping him as he would come out, then the train would stop right there, and then I'll have another train stop here waiting to get the same track. And the bottom line is they would both be just sitting there forever until I figured it out and fixed it, because they would both be sitting there on signals with nowhere to go. So it's just something you have to keep an eye on. And that's something it may be easier to explain. I don't know, hopefully you guys understood that, but it may be easier to explain once I actually have the 3rd train in there. I can show you easier then. Okay, now where's my train depot? Where did I put it? Oh, there it is right there. Okay, so yeah, that'll work. A lot of times it's beneficial just to put a signal from the track coming out of your train depot. That way they move up here instead of waiting back here, and it cuts a little bit of the time off. Because he's going to have to use this track for the moment that the other train is using. But I'll wait until this guy, he gets back on that side going that way, so he won't interfere with that train coming out. But first, while I'm waiting for that anyway, I need to create the new line. Line 4 is going to create the new line. You just click on that, Boise East. Click on that, and then you see the color code to take the track. Now, if you click between 2 places and you don't see that color code connect to the 2 destinations, that means you've got a hole in your track somewhere and there's no path. And you know, it's just something you generally just have to go close up. Just get rid of that. Like, just go real close up to your track and look at the track. Because sometimes if you're making your track from, say, out this far out, sometimes it'll look like you're connected, but you're actually not. There'll be a little gap there, and you know, sometimes that's something you gotta watch out for. Okay, and then I've got to remember that's going to be a goods train. Okay, so let's speed this up a little bit. We can get rid of that for now. Wait until he's out of the way. Okay, so he's out of the way. Now buy train. I'll actually have another train showed up available. I mean, for that distance, I don't necessarily know that we need a train, but it's a little bit of a distance. I'll go with the faster train. It's only an extra 5 kilometers an hour, but that's something. And honestly, I think the biggest difference these newer trains make, honestly, is their hill climb ability. Because these 2-tier, the lowest, the early trains, they just have terrible hill climbing ability. Now, luckily, this is on pretty flat terrain, it looks like, so I don't think it'd be a big deal, but it is something you have to keep in mind. Oh, that's another thing. Okay, so how many goods does this town need right now? 40. It has a demand of 40. So I like to be able to give enough capacity so it can haul the entire capacity a town needs in one load. And for that generally seems to work. Let's see, so this has a number of 7, so actually I don't have enough money for that. I've only got $33,000 right now. How many cars do I have on there right now? 3 times 7, that would be 21. Well, I've already bought the engine, so that means I'm going to be paying the maintenance on it, even if it's just sitting there in the garage. So I might as well just send it out with what it's got. And I mean, that should be enough to make a profit, but I don't think it's not going to be as much as I could be getting. But let's go ahead and send him out. Now, I don't have a connection from this track going to that track, and he can't turn that way, so he's going to have to come down here, and then he'll cross over that one, and then from there, then he'll jump on the right track to get to Concord. Actually, did I wait too long? Yes, I waited too long. This guy's actually on his way back. But that means, so he's going to sit here and wait on the signal there and wait for that guy to pass, and then he's going to have to wait until he gets in, completely clears the station, and gets back on the other side, because I watched that. I got to talking too much. But that's okay, it's not going to waste that much time. Although in this game, time is money. I mean, that's true in pretty much all senses of life, but in this game especially, time is a lot of money on this game. Because trains are pretty expensive. And that's one thing I haven't had a chance to really check or notice in the preview, is if they've changed how much money it costs to run these trains and the amount of time. Now, from what I've seen in the previews of Transport Fever, it looks like you may have an opportunity to haul a lot more cargo in a single train than you do in Train Fever, and that would make more sense. I mean, because I'm not necessarily sure that it's inaccurate that these trains are expensive to run, but I think is what tends to be a little inaccurate about Train Fever is you just usually don't get that many opportunities to run as much cargo as was accurate. Okay, yeah, see, now this is going to be a perfect example of actually what I was telling you on the signals. Because I watched that, I didn't get this guy out while that train was on his northbound leg. This guy waited for him to come around and get into the station. And if he's in the station, this train took that as a clear to move up to here. So the problem being is he is on the track that this guy needs to get to that load. So that means this guy's got nowhere to go, but this guy doesn't have anywhere to go either. Well, that's actually not true. Now, that's something else I can point out, is the pathfinding. If the pathfinding was good, this train would see, well, this track is clear, why doesn't he just move in there and go up that track? But that's because, let me show you, let me click on him. It's because his line is set to use that track, and that's just the only track he wants to use. This thing doesn't have a pathfinding ability to use another track in the same station if it's taken. So the only way I could do that, I would have to put like a waypoint right here and select that as one of his destinations, and then he would use it. But on its own, these trains don't have the pathfinding ability to figure that out. So, again, now he's just sitting there wondering what to do because his track's taken. And this guy's doing the same thing. So, the quickest thing to do... let's turn him around. And I was hoping he would go back up there, but see, he won't do that either. So, what I can do, and see, this is why you have to be careful in watching how your trains come out of your depots and making sure your signals are correct. So what we will do, though, that I think will take care of this, is I will make another signal. Let's say, will it let me do it right? Yep. So I'll make another signal to stop an incoming train, so he'll go right up to that signal, then I'll just tell him to turn around, and then he'll get going on the right path. And then I just need to remember to get rid of that signal once this is figured out. So yeah, it's things like that on this game, and I don't know, I haven't heard if pathfinding issues like that are still going to be present in Transport Fever or not. I hope they've taken care of that. Okay, so turn him around, and now he's got a path onto that track, the correct one, so he'll be on his way now. And there shouldn't be any more issues furthermore.
Oh, yeah.
And looks like I've got some vehicle. Yeah, it's a passenger, basically an early bus, which I usually don't even like to mess with anyway. I guess that's another comparison I can make, is I've never been able to figure out for sure if making bus lines in a town, connecting them to a passenger station between two towns really actually increases the business that a passenger train would get. You would think it would, but I don't think this game really tells you that anywhere. Like I said, there's a lot of mechanics in this game that aren't really explained, and there's things that would be kind of common sense, but I don't necessarily know that those things actually work in the game. And in my experience, I've usually gone without making any bus connections to my train stations, and I haven't really felt like it's affected their effectiveness. I mean, if there's business in the town there, usually it should be there regardless whether you have bus stations in there or not. I mean, but passenger lines, in my experience, they're a little bit more tricky, in my opinion, as to whether they're going to work or not anyway. It seems like I've almost never had my first passenger line fail, but the longer you go, it seems like the more likely they are just to not get any business. Okay, so he's already hauled his way up there. And of course now I turned him around before he got into the station, so he has no goods. That first run is going to be a dry run, which that's the way it usually is with pretty much any cargo or passengers. Usually the first trip is going to be a dry run almost every time. But we do have goods stacked up there waiting, about 14 goods. So his next load, he'll probably get about a full load by the time he gets back. I think right now he's got a capacity of 21 since I wasn't able to put as many cars on as I wanted to. But shouldn't be an issue. We should make that money back before too long. Matter of fact, let's speed it up. Now that's one thing. I'm not sure if I'll keep playing at this early stage or I might transport. Like I said, I talked about that in my last video. I may go to a more developed game just to show you some of the more complicated things that are I have already built instead of waiting for this game to develop from such an early stage. Although this game, and this map, I've got so many cargo opportunities. I can't see them where they all go. Yeah, but I've got some up here. I've got some over here. And I don't know if you can see that, but yeah, the FPS on this game, it doesn't really like it when you zoom out this far and start dragging around. It drops your frames quite a bit. Of course, I'm using a somewhat dated computer. I mean, if yours better than mine, you might not have that issue. Because quite honestly, I'm probably due for an upgrade on my computer, but this is what I've got for now, and it does alright on most games. But yeah, this looks like it would be a fun map to continue playing just because there's so many cargo opportunities laying around. But right now I'm trying to think if there's anything specifically as relates that I could compare from Transport Fever to this game that I haven't done already, and at the moment nothing really comes to mind. So really the next tests are going to be is really when I continued adding trains. Like, let's see, where is the nearest cargo? I would have to go up there to Murfreesboro or down here to the Arlington area, which is, oh wait, I've got some down here in Bridgeport. But I would probably want to supply San Bernardino from over here, from the Boise Depot. And that's probably the only other town, like Killeen and Waco, I would probably supply from Sacramento and Murfreesboro, respectively. Tulsa, probably from Murfreesboro. But, you know, it's kind of things like that. You have to kind of strategize out, like, you have to find all of your cargo distribution points and then figure out, okay, what towns do I want to supply from which distribution point. And I mean, it's good if you can supply at least 2 towns from each distribution point, because that allows you to get a reasonable amount of production. I mean, because that, you know, basically you want as much production as possible from each facility, because that means that the raw resources that supply this good facilities, they have to ramp up their production even more, and that allows you to maximize your profits on your trains that are bringing the raw resources in. So those are just some things to keep in mind, and I think I'll wrap that video up with this one. And of course, if this video, if it's helped you, then try and remember to give a like to it. And as always, thank you for watching my videos. I'll see you later.